Hey, Blazor fans! How's everybody doing on this holiday weekend in the US? It's still the weekend. It's a Monday holiday called Labor Day. So happy Labor Day to you US guys and gals joining the show. So we're gonna have some fun today. we got some folks in a burger coma from yesterday. It's Memorial Day's a holiday that we use to celebrate our service members and things, but it's also the kickoff of summer. So we've got a lot of outdoor activities and stuff that people do over the weekend and into Monday and whatnot. So today is actually supposed to be a holiday for me, but I've got too much work to do. And I promised to stream last week and never got to it, so we're going to do it this week. So I've got some fun stuff planned. I've got a show coming up, a live show. I'm doing a conference in Grand Rapids, Michigan called Beer City Code. So Beer City Code is going to be this weekend, starting on Friday. I have a full workshop that we're doing a blazing pizza workshop up in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I've got quite a few people attending that, so I'm gonna do a little recording of a message for those folks here in a minute to give them the prerequisites for the workshop. And if you're new to Blazor, that will be very helpful information to you, because that's what we need to actually build our Blazor application that we're going to start on today. So hopefully this is a good day for people to join the stream. I know I've got a lot of viewers from over in Europe, in the UK, in the EU. I think there's going to be a kind of a low audience today from the US side. People are still enjoying their weekend vacations. So let's get started. If you're coming to Beer City Code, oh, I just got, let's see, Tofu Lock, thanks for subscribing. Appreciate the subscription, man. So yeah, we're going to be doing the workshop here in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and if you are going to be part of that, there are some tools that you will need to get started. So the first thing I'm going to suggest is, and it's actually something that's going to be necessary to have to participate in the workshop and build Blazor applications. The first thing we need to do is go to the Microsoft Visual Studio Marketplace. And one of the tools that you need is the Blazor plugin. This gets you some of the Blazor templates, and it also has this nice set of prerequisites, which these are prerequisites that are absolutely necessary for building a Blazor application. I already have them installed. If you're doing the workshop or you're following along on the show today, you will need these tools as well. So let me zoom in a little bit on the screen here. Actually, let's go ahead and just jump straight into a coding view here so we can see these really good. But what we need is the .NET Core 3.0 Preview 5 SDK. So this is something that we absolutely have to have. So you're going to come to the .NET Core 3.0 installation page and pick the install that works best for you. In my case, it is the .NET Core 64-bit installer. So you're going to click on that guy and install it. And then we also need the Visual Studio Preview installation. So make sure you have the Visual Studio Preview version installed. You'll notice when, let me close this guy out. When we launch Visual Studio, you'll see the preview icon in the startup window here. If you don't have that preview icon when it comes up, then you do not have the correct version. Make sure you have the preview version. It is absolutely required to build Blazor applications as of right now. And then this calls out again the same Blazor plugin that we have here. We need to download and install that. And then we also have some client-side templates. This is optional, but it is very helpful. If you're joining on the live show today, you'll probably see me use this either today or in a upcoming episode. So those are the things that you need to build the Blazing Pizza workshop and follow along on the live stream. All right, so back to the live stream at hand. Let me close out the the Beer City Code stuff and answer some questions. And Stephen, thanks for the Twitch Prime subscription. Appreciate that. Do you know when 3.0 will be released? Tofu Lock asks. Yes, actually, I do know when 3.0 is released. Let's see, I've been working on a presentation about Razor. I have that in my notes, or actually I have it in the presentation here. So I've got a, hey, Mr. Magoo, welcome. I've got a really interesting Razor presentation that I'm doing at Beer City Code. It's called Razor into the Razorverse. It's kind of a play off of the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse movie, which I absolutely love. It was fantastic. But to the question at hand, Tofu Lock asked, when is .NET Core 3.0 shipping? So I lost my stream monitor here. Okay, you guys can see that really well. So July, we're expecting another release candidate, or the release candidate, which is another preview. September is going to be globally available, and then that will be the release sometime in September. So we'll expect that in September, and then we'll have a 3.1 in November. You probably can expect some patches and bug fixes and things like that. And then it moves on into November 2020, which is the GA of .NET 5.0. So in between this November 2019 release and November 2020 release, you can expect previews of .NET 5 to be coming out. So some release schedule roadmap type stuff here. And they plan to do this every year. You can see the roadmap continues into 2021, 22, and so on. So every year in November, we should be getting brand new bits. So that's exciting stuff. Hopefully they're able to stick to that. I don't have any doubts that they can. It's just something that they haven't done before. So let's see here. Some new folks on the stream, it looks like. Todd Forsberg, hello. Welcome to the show. And thanks for following. Appreciate you guys jumping on the stream today, especially if you're in the U.S. enjoying the holiday. Maybe it's giving you something to do with your day off. Who knows? But we're going to build an app today. We're going to at least get started. Yeah, for client-side Blazor, the Freeze team, that's correct. Dan said a probable Q1 2020 or Q2 is the client-side Blazor. So it's a little bit different than the question that was asked. The question that was asked by Tofu Lock was, when does ASP.NET Core 3.0 ship? That's supposed to be this year. Client-side Blazor will ship next year. So thanks to the clarification there, the Freeze team. So let's see. I just went over prereqs because I'm going to be doing a workshop next week. We're going to be building the Blazing Pizza app. If you haven't seen this yet, this isn't a workshop that I created, but it is from the official .NET team. So Ryan Nowak, Steve Sanderson, those guys, they built this really cool Blazing Pizza app that you can build with a self-guided workshop, or you can attend a workshop where somebody is giving instructions on how to build this. That's what I'm doing. I'll be up in Grand Rapids, Michigan, doing the workshop. So it's a really fun workshop. It teaches you a lot of the things that you need to know about building Blazor apps and components and state management and all that good stuff. But today we're going to start on a little bit of a new adventure. It is also conference related. I have, let me go to Sessionize here. I've got a session that I put in. Oh, hey, Goran, welcome back to the show. I recognize some of you folks. So I do a lot of conference speaking, and let me get on my Sessionize account here. You guys can't see that password, thank God. All right. I've got quite a few conferences lined up this year, and this one I actually submitted for build. It got rejected. Sadly enough, I didn't get to give it at build. But we're gonna start building this on the show and get ready for Codepalooza, which is an awesome conference that is very close to me. I helped start and run Codepalooza for several years. Stepped aside recently, and Codepalooza is still going strong in the Louisville area, so the city of Louisville, Kentucky. We're happy to have such an awesome conference, and I get to speak there this year. And my session is building a full stack Blazor application with ML.NET and CosmosDB and lots of other fun stuff. We might use some Azure functions in here and just try to use as much of the .NET ecosystem as we can to build a full stack web application. The idea for this app came from Behance, which, if you're not familiar with Behance, it's kind of like a portfolio site for designers. And I picked up on this really cool post. Again, this wasn't my idea. This is Mo Slaw, I think is how you pronounce that. But he posted this really cool idea of a space Uber app where you could book a travel segment on a little bit of a space travel program. So you kind of sign in, you can book your trip to different planets, and it gives you like your estimated time, lets you pick seats and pay for it, all that kind of stuff. I thought this would be a really fun Blazor app to build. And we're not going to build it exactly like this. We're just going to use this kind of as inspiration to build an application. I've got some cool ideas around how to estimate the cost for travel using Azure ML and stuff, or not Azure, sorry, .NET ML, ML.NET. So we'll work on this. This is the general idea. That's where I got the idea from. So the final application will be presented at Codepalooza and some other conferences this year. But we're going to build it on the show. So I think this will be a fun project. So let's get started. I went over prereqs for people that are new. I've got Visual Studio 2019 preview open, and we are going to create a brand new project. That's where we're going to get started. I'll put these bits up on GitHub as soon as we get moving along, in case you guys want to hack on things. So. Also a quick note for chat room. We have quite a few subscribers now, and I'm very grateful for the 10 subscribers that we do have. If you are a subscriber, you now have access to the Blazor Power Glove emoji. So that's fun. I used to have my face there because we had like no subscribers, so I just threw some quick emoticons up there. One of them just happened to be my face, and it's a really cool drawing that I got from Star Trek one year. I removed that and replaced it with the Power Glove, since we actually have subscribers now that can take advantage of that. Instead of spamming my face everywhere, you can actually use the cool Blazor Power Glove. If you haven't seen the Blazor Power Glove, scroll down on the Twitch page there, and you'll see some merch that I've got. The merch stuff I'm not pushing, like that's not the point of the show, but there initially was no like Blazor swag or icons or anything, so I came up with my own, and I shared those in case people wanted to wear some Blazor swag. So that's where the Blazor Power Glove emoji came from, is because we didn't have this logo, which is another one that's in the collection. We didn't have that cool Blazor icon yet. So that's the reason behind it. It is out there if you guys want to grab it and use it. All right, so we're going to build a new app called BlazePort. I already have a directory set up for it. I need to name this, and we're going to call it BlazePort. Let me check this folder here real quick. I've already got one in here called BlazePort, so we're probably going to have to rename this. Let me rename this one. I was doing some test work in here, so we'll name that one old, just so we don't have a conflict. And then, yeah, this will be it here. What was loud there, Bite Me? Was it the subscriber notification that was loud? So I had an issue with that before, and if it's kind of regressed into that bug again, I'm not going to be very happy with Streamlabs. So let me know what was loud exactly. So did file new app, and then I'm going to grab the server-side Blazor this time. Usually on the show, I run with the client-side or hosted Blazor apps because that's kind of where the new hotness is at. But this is going to be run on the server side for some very specific reasons. For one, I think this is a little more practical because it's where ASP.NET Core is shipping. So ASP.NET Core 3.0 ships, server-side Blazor is coming with it, with client-side following sometime next year. So it's a little more practical to go with what's going to ship with support sooner. So we're going to go with that. And also, we're going to be doing some I keep saying Azure, some ML.NET, which is which has a dependency. Another new subscriber. Oh, thanks for the subscription, Mr. Magoo. I appreciate that. Lots of subs coming in lately. Really surprised and appreciative of all that. So, Blazor server side. We're going to use this because ML.NET has a dependency on x86 and x64, which means WebAssembly is out. So we could always use ML.NET on the client side through an HTTP proxy, but that's not what I want to do. I want to actually put this all in one application, proper separation of concerns and whatnot, but I want it to all run in the same context. So we're going to choose server-side Blazor for this one. So this is going to be a lot of prep today. Might be a little on the less exciting side. I hate to say boring. It's not going to be boring. But we're going to do a lot of prep work. So I'm going to be setting up the project, removing some of the redundant examples, and setting up a, a Sass pipeline, stuff like that. So that's what we're going to do today. We may be a little limited on time today. I've got the Telerik webinar. Let me throw a quick shout out to my employers. So I'm doing the Telerik webinar this week. So I am leaving for Boston to do a live webinar on Wednesday. So if you go to telerik.com, we've got a bunch of new releases that just came out, and I'm going to be covering them in a webinar on Wednesday. You can sign up for the webinar if you want to watch that live on Wednesday. I'll pop that in the chat room for everybody. So that's where I'll be. I'll be in Boston from our home office, and me and Sam Basu will be covering like all of the awesome .NET tools that Telerik makes. I used them for many, many years. Now I work for them, and we'll be actually using some of them in BlazePort here as well. So we'll be using the Telerik UI for Blazor eventually, which I will likely go through the setup on this today too, because I like to get those tools in the application as early as possible, just because they make development so much easier. So this is the basic file new project experience. A lot of the Blazor vets in the chat room definitely know what's going on here. There's some new folks today, so I'll jump in and explain real quick what the file new project entails. This is a very bare bones hello world. It has a data example that has a weather forecast in a simple service that generates random data that we can display in a grid, which I'll show you in a moment. There's a couple pages under the pages directory. We've got a counter example, that fetch data example in our index page. And then we have some layout stuff. We have our main layout and our nav bar. And we're going to actually wipe out most of this stuff, but I wanted to kind of give it a quick glance before we start deleting things. So we've got our counter. We click this guy, it counts up. It just gives you a simple idea of how the logic for a Blazor application is written. And the weather forecast gives you an idea of how services are handled in Blazor. So if we look at the counter, we have a simple button, and it's bound to increment count, which just does exactly what it says. It increments a count, which is displayed on the page. And this is all C#, and it is going over a SignalR connection. So there's nothing running on the client other than a little bit of thin client architecture that uses SignalR in the background. So it's very cool stuff. And then the service page here, the fetch data, we get our weather forecast service through dependency injection. We await the response from it, and then we for each over the items in the forecast and render those on the page. So it's pretty simple stuff. And now we're going to get rid of it. So we'll close this guy down, turn it off. Let's see, Mr. McGee says, I learned something new today. In VS, you can right-click on the little icon in the bottom left and see what is doing. You're talking about this one way down here, the background tasks. So yeah, when it's booting up, you'll see it restoring packages and whatnot down there. You can click and get a little pop-up window of what it's doing. They did that to help speed up how projects are loaded in Visual Studio 2019. So it does a lot of stuff asynchronously now. All right, so data. I am going to wipe this guy out. We're not going to use weather forecast. I will keep the folder around. We may have some data, so why not keep the data folder? So I'm going to get that guy out of there. Let's see what else. We don't need the fetch data page anymore, so that's going to go. We don't need the counter anymore. That's going to go. And let's see what else we have. Any more placeholder stuff? Let's go into our nav bar. We're going to get rid of actually quite a bit of this as well. Before we do, I'm going to jump into startup because I'm already going to have some errors in here. We don't need to add a weather forecast service anymore, so we'll take that guy out. So that is gone. And that namespace isn't needed anymore. If it gets stuck, you have templated components that are self-referenced like a tree view. I think if talking about if your app gets stuck like this, you can check and see what it's doing and see why it's stuck. Not sure if I understand the comment there, Mr. Magoo. So let's see. The rest of the stuff I think is fine. So we will leave this. I also like to do this. Remove unused usings. Just because there's a bunch of stuff referenced in there that's just not used. And if we need it, we can hit Control period and get it back. So take that stuff out. We don't have a counter page, and we don't have a fetch data page anymore, so we'll get rid of those. We're going to leave some of this stuff for now, but eventually this is actually going to get wiped out pretty hard too. That nav bar that I just deleted, if we go back to the app for people that haven't seen the Hello World app very much yet, the stuff that I just deleted is in the left-hand panel. Those are our menu items. Since I took away all the code for the counter component and the fetch data component, we really don't need those up there anymore. So let that guy spin for a minute. OBS is pretty processor intensive. That's the OBS is the streaming software, and it can kind of lag out these builds a little bit. So if you see it kind of get slow, it's not Blazor itself. It is actually the hardware, or not the hardware, the all of the streaming equipment and stuff doing that. So you can see we're down to just home now and hello world. So we removed a lot of the boilerplate code that we don't need. So we're in a good spot. All right, so let's actually see if we've got a GitHub repo here already. We do, and oh, no, we don't. We have no branches. So I thought I clicked the button. I guess I didn't. There's a checkbox that says initialize a GitHub repository or a Git repository. I guess I didn't hit that when I started it up, so this will end up being our first commit then. Let's see, changes, master. Okay, so there's no changes. It'll commit automatically when you hit that button. I don't know if you guys saw that. I might have done it a little fast, but down here, if you don't have a GitHub or a Git repo set up, there's a little button at the bottom you can click, and it will pop up a button that you can press, and it will initialize a Git repo, and it automatically commits a first message at the current state of your application. So if we pull up this Team Explorer and we go to, I'm trying to remember where this is at. We may be able to just right click. Nope. Try branches here. Branches, history. And in here you'll see add project files is the initial commit that it gives you. So this initial commit is going to be not the file new project, but the file new project minus the boilerplate code that I just deleted. So we're kind of missing a little bit of a commit there, but it's not an important one, so it doesn't really matter. So handy tips there for Visual Studio anyway, is you can init one. What else is really nice about that, and I'll just pop over to a folder view. Actually, I don't need to. I can see it here. Is it adds a git ignore file as well when you do that, and it's templated out for general .NET development, ASP.NET development. So it's excluding a lot of files and stuff that come with Visual Studio and .NET that you don't want to push into your GitHub repo. So it does that for you too. So it's a pretty nice little automated process to hit that one button, and it basically throws a git ignore file in there and does a git init for you. So one less trip to the command line makes me happy. I want to get rid of a little bit more of this boilerplate stuff. I don't plan on using this collapsible menu that we have. I'm going to Control F5 just so I don't have to have debugging running. I'm not really doing anything that I need to debug anyhow. Just so I can show, I've got a nice pop-up window stuck here from Visual Studio. Let me dismiss that. There we go. I'm going to end up putting this menu bar across the top. I don't want it on the side for this app. So I'm going to end up removing all this collapsible panel stuff. I add a edit config first thing so you can control the style of the code. I don't have a default editor config that I use, so just kind of run with what's there. The collapsible editor config is a new feature, though, isn't it? That's something that just came with Visual Studio 2019, I believe. The collapsible panel thing I'm getting rid of. If anything, I'll end up rolling my own or just adding a new one later. But the menu for this is going to be up at the top for now. We'll back into responsive design later. Usually I do responsive first, but just kind of hacking away at this thing. Just kind of enjoying building stuff with Blazor. Not worried about some of my normal practices that I use. Let's see. We're going to do away with this top nav bar. We don't need this toggle button. We don't need this list. I'm just going to leave a nav link up there. And let's see how this treats me. Oh, so you get, yeah, you can export that from your options. You can, that's pretty new stuff that's compatible with Visual Studio Code as well. If I remember correctly, it actually got picked out of Visual Studio Code and put into Visual Studio 2019. So we're going to remove the sidebar anyway. And if I go into my index, or no, sorry, my shared main layout, I'm going to remove this sidebar. I don't want that anymore. So we're just kind of slowly putting this back into a default blank Blazor app. It's a standard across all editors. The Freeze team, I'm just reading his comments here. It's a standard across all editors, but I think that standard kind of started in Visual Studio Code. May be wrong on that, but I think that is what happened. Oh boy. Okay. So something's gone awry here. It may just be with this being open. Let me just see if there's a IS Express process going here. Let me stop these sites. I think that's, whoops, I think there was a site running. I had some kind of conflict there. There we go, yeah. So that sidebar should be gone now. And I think we'll have, it's still, the element I think is styling a little weird. We're gonna get rid of these styles anyhow. So yeah, so this nav link stretches pretty much the height of the page, which is kind of odd. And then we're gonna get rid of this top bar too. So just kind of clearing this out. There's no like blank empty canvas or anything type of Blazor project yet. So we kind of have to go through this process of axing these things out. And then we can probably move this into the main right there. And then we have layout component is what we're inheriting from. This is the main layout, though. There's nothing underneath of this, which in Bootstrap 4, I think we need a there we go. Yeah, this is more like what I wanted. Okay, it's a nice blank app to start from. We can leave Hello World for now. Leave that guy up there. So we'll probably change this up a little bit in a few minutes. But Bootstrap 4, I believe we're going to need a, what's it called? I always have to look at the docs for Bootstrap because I just don't remember the class names all the time. Container fluid, I think it is. Let's be sure. And it's going to be under layout here. So this is just the absolute basic. Yeah, there's container. So container has a set of margins on it. So we're going to have a container on the outside of the app. Actually, let me get that back off of there. Say container here. You can notice we have the IntelliSense here too. So container is going to be the outermost thing. I'm actually going to change that to container fluid, but I wanted to show the difference between container and container fluid real quick. I'm pretty well versed in Bootstrap and Foundation. I've used them for years. Friends with some of the people that created the initial projects even. I really enjoy working with Bootstrap for rapid prototyping and all that stuff. I could probably roll my own grid system and whatnot using Sass pretty quickly, but it's already there. It's already built. Why reinvent the wheel? I know some people are kind of anti-Bootstrap these days. One may argue that some of the more advanced features aren't being used if you're doing all that work, because in Bootstrap you can pretty much pick the pieces you want to use. And what's with the weird comment? Oh, this is a Blazor thing, and I need to ask Steve. I forget why this happens. This has something to do with the render tree. You'll notice that these wrap components. So it's only inside of the Blazor app itself where you see these things. There used to be a div that had some sort of name in it, some specialized name. And it was to help the render tree, I think, find what it needed to re-render, and then it turned into this weird comment block. So it's used internally in the framework. It's supposed to go away. When it goes away is the question I think we need to ask. And why is it there? I do know it's something internal. That's the only thing I know. We can ask though and see. You know what? Let's try something real quick. Let's make a copy of this guy, and we'll go to the GitHub repo and do a quick search and see if someone has logged an issue on it, and then we'll get our answer. If not, then we'll move on. And I'll open an issue or ask a question later. Whoops, I mean to hit new issue. Jeez, meant to search. Nope, nothing there. So let's try Blazor comment. I don't see. Yeah, I don't see anything in here, and it's probably going to be hard to find. So I'll ask. I'll shoot one of the developers on Blazor, either Steve or Ryan, a question and ask them why it's there and when is it going away. But I do know they addressed it at one time, and they were trying to get rid of it. So it has changed a little bit. Like I said, it used to be a div. Now it's that. It's not really intrusive at all. It's just kind of weird when you look at the source code and see all that nonsense in there. Okay, so I was talking about Bootstrap. And if we look at the application here, let's go to the container. Notice these peach, I guess, these light orange, creamsicle colored bars on the side. Those are padding. If you go to this computed, or margin, sorry, not padding. So you can see I'm highlighting the margin in this inspection tool here, and that's our margin. It's 390 pixels on each side. This gets set by Bootstrap in this container element. So we got 100% width, and then we have these gutters that are 15 pixels, and then the margin right and left is set to auto. So what we're going to do is actually use oh, thanks, Chris. So Chris Santi posted, oh, it's actually something that's written. So I thought it was a video. And then Coding Gorilla says Angular has these type of bits too. The comments are there for functional reasons. They let the renderer track the boundaries of components in a more efficient way than we could otherwise. There's no practical drawback that I know of. I'm going to take this, that they don't have any practical drawback that I know of, is they're not going to address this anytime soon. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean that as a, if they're not hurting performance on the browser and they are making something more efficient for the framework, then they probably aren't concerned about it. And it's going to be one of those things that is a cosmetic cleanup rather than a real issue. It's the issue's closed, so I don't think it's going to go away. Initially, I think it was because they were divs, but I guess this is yeah. So Mr. Magoo, you're one step ahead of me. So yeah, I actually put container on here so I could kind of show the difference between container and container fluid. So I want to get rid of these margins, and I want to go full screen on this app. So I'm going to do like Mr. Magoo said and say fluid right here, and we will have, I don't think we have a workflow where I can just refresh. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to no, I actually do. Okay, that's a benefit of server-side Blazor. So we can actually refresh without rebuilding the entire app. So now we have container fluid, and now you'll see we only have the little green markers on there. So that's just the padding or the gutters that creates enough white space so our text doesn't bleed into the edge of the browser. Yeah, so another thing I might want to delete is site.css. That's a great point. So we're actually going to do that. We'll do that in another process here, though. I'm going to walk through that in just a minute. Let's go ahead and commit what we have so far. Let's go Team Explorer changes. Let's bring this up a little bit, and we'll just say removed nav bar boilerplate, and then added fluid layout. There we go. And we'll fix our spelling there. I've got a spelling plugin for Visual Studio because I'm a terrible speller. I'll admit it. I'm not scared to admit that. I've always been one. It's never going to get better. If I'm 40 years old, if within 40 years my spelling hasn't improved, it's not going to. So might as well do something right about it. And so if I go in here, let's see, spelling, Visual Studio Spell Checker. This thing is really nice because it works on comments, strings, and plain text, and it leaves alone your code. So you don't want something spell checking like your sorry, I don't know if you caught that freeze. So let me see. I'll pull this up and make it a little more. Oops. As I misspell spelling, that's just genius there. Let me go to more information here so I can share this a little bit better. This is the documentation for it. You can grab the, it's just Visual Studio Spell Checker. But like I was saying, it's nice because it doesn't spell check your class names. So it's not going to help you, but it's also not going to hurt you by installing it. It doesn't try to like check your properties and classes and all that nonsense and get in your way. Installing, yeah. So we've got another bad speller in the chat room, I see. So I like I said, it's know your weaknesses, right? Let's see. I'm going to take out Open Iconic as well. I don't want that. I'm actually going to remove Bootstrap too. How about that? So this is something that I like to do on my projects. So we're actually going to delete Bootstrap. Bootstrap is gone. Site CSS is gone. All that stuff is gone. We're gonna step this thing up a notch. So I need to get Bootstrap back, and I want the Sass version. I don't want the CSS version. So I am going to create a new folder in my main project, add new folder, and this one is going to be called Sass. Grammarly is also awesome. I haven't used it. It looks really cool. I know it's a subscription-based thing. I don't mind paying for stuff, but I just haven't. Like, the basic spelling tools work pretty good for me. I'm not bad at grammar so much as I am just stupid spelling errors. So I haven't tried it out yet. And speaking of spelling and typing, I got a new quiet keyboard, so hopefully that helps with the stream as well. So I used to have a really clacky mechanical keyboard, and I know people can hear that on the video, so hopefully this is a little bit quieter. So I want to bring in the Sass version of Bootstrap, and I also need some tooling for that. So we're going to go out to NuGet, and there is something out here called build web compiler. So I'll just go to the page for it here. Build web compiler is going to build Sass for us. So this is where you can find build web compiler. We can also just install this right in our project in dependencies. So manage NuGet packages. This is so we don't have to use npm. I don't really care for npm. I don't need all that stuff on my machine if I really don't need it. All I'm doing is building Sass files. So I don't want to install all that JavaScript stuff if I'm not using it. So let's go to browse, web, build web compiler. And this works on the command line as well, so it's not going to hang up anybody that wants to run this stuff from the command line. So build web compiler is going in. And then we also need the Bootstrap packages. We're going to come into the top of our project, and we will say source control, manage client-side libraries. Actually, no, we're going to use this one, add client-side library. That's going to actually give us this terrible GUI, which I gave the team feedback on. Hopefully they do something about it. I think somebody in the chat room, I think it might have been Mr. Magoo or someone said, did they build this window in VB6 because it's just ugly? But it gets the job done. So let's see, we want Bootstrap. I think we just grab Bootstrap proper here, and we need an @ symbol at the end. Once we hit @ we'll get IntelliSense, and we can bring in 4.3.1, which is the latest and greatest. Instead of bringing in everything, this is what npm installs. This is why I don't like npm. You get everything, like everything that is in here. The JavaScript, which I'm not going to use, the Sass, the license, everything in the distribution file. So you get the CSS even though you're not using it. And not to beat a dead horse, we don't need all this crap. So I'm just going to grab the Sass directory, and that's what I want to bring in. Rob the Great with a 2-month subscription. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Coding Gorilla is agreeing with me here. Like, npm sucks for installing everything. The source code, the compiled code, the license agreement. We don't want it. We even get a package.json. Like, we're not using this stuff. We just want Sass, right? Target location. We're going to make this a little bit easier and just say Sass. There's our target. And actually, I'm going to put this in a Sass folder called vendors, and then Bootstrap. So I like to be a little more organized with my Sass stuff. You'll see this will help out later. And we'll put that under that folder. And here we have Sass, vendors, Bootstrap, and then Sass again. It gets a little deep, gets a little messy, but at the end of the day, it will make sense, I promise. Let's see. We need to compile this now. So what I like to do is create another folder. I would say add a new folder. This one is going to be themes. And I may have other themes later. I'm going to set it up this way, even though I don't have more than one theme right now. I may have a light and dark theme eventually. I'm going to go ahead and just prep for that. Normally I'd say, like, don't do this out of the box and refactor, but I think that's something I'd like to do later on, is have a light and dark theme. So I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway. Yeah, they tried to make npm better with the node modules folders, but it's still pretty terrible. I mean, people hate when I bash NPM, especially JavaScript community, because it's a necessary thing and it does its job and it's a lot of hard work went into it. It's just kind of the JavaScript ecosystem just isn't as simple as the .NET ecosystem, in my opinion. It's just kind of clunky. I think that's reflected pretty heavily in that big JavaScript, state of JavaScript survey thing they did. Like that was the top issue with most of the answers, where people, hey, Janescu, welcome to the show. People just said JavaScript tooling in general was clunky. We'll have to look at that sometime, but that was one of the things that stuck out to me. I'm going to create a Sass file here. And it's kind of annoying. This is one of the little nitpicks of mine is if you pick just CSS, it works fine. But you have to keep renaming your files. Let's see. I'm going to go with all for now. So this one's going to be called all. I'm also going to go into vendors, and I'm going to pick a file out of here, this Bootstrap CSS file. I'm actually going to copy this guy, and I'm going to put it in my theme here, because this file has tons of stuff in it. And I want to make a copy because if I make changes to this file, I don't want that file to be overwritten if I reinstall my dependency on Bootstrap. So if I upgrade to 4.3.2, for example, I don't want anything to be affected in this file. So I'm going to use this. And I think I have to change the directories here. This is going to end up being nope, again, vendors, Bootstrap, and Sass, like that. I believe that's it. I messed something up though. Messed up functions here. So I need that path. So this part's a little annoying, but there may be an easier way to do this. I might have to look this up, but we need this path instead. So this path, I need to make sure I copy it correctly. Get that. And then I'm just going to paste that in. So we'll just do a quick special cursor here, and then boom. That should give me all of my imports properly assigned. And then in my all, I can come in and say at import, and then I can say Bootstrap. We don't need that SCSS on there either, by the way. So we should be able to do that. And now I can right click on all and say web compiler, compile file. This is going to generate a web compiler settings file. So compiler config.json, and it automatically, there's an error because due to a change in format after the extension was updated. That is a first. I haven't seen that one before. I don't know if that's the correct error though. And then nothing is coming up in my errors. So it shows an error here. Navigate to the error list. One error. Then when I click on it, we have no errors. We have a message. Okay. I don't know what's going on there exactly. We'll try to figure it out in a second here. I don't want the import and export to be, it did compile, so I don't know what that error was for. All.css did get generated. I'm going to delete that in a sec. If I delete it now, it probably could get regenerated. One thing I'm going to do is, I don't know why, I don't like output first. It's a pet peeve of mine. I like input output, not output input. It's just kind of like a reverse way of thinking, and I always end up messing it up. My output file is going to go somewhere different, and I am going to put this in www.root. So this will go in www.root /CSS, and I don't know, yeah, it's saying potential fixes. I don't know if this is trying to fix some spelling or if I need to do a ... first. Let's try wroot and see if it blows up or if I get an output. All right, I don't know what that's doing. Don't know why that keeps popping up on me. I don't think it's because I'm still in the file, because you should be able to run it within the file. Web compiler, recompile. Yeah, it's still throwing that at me. I don't know why. And it's not compiling this time, so I'm not sure it's finding that directory. It should be, though. It should be the root, because Sass is root, and then www.root is on the main project. CSS. Yeah, this is a new one for me. This worked the other day on another project, and now it's not. Oh, I need a file name. Jeez, that's why I'm not getting anything. Site.css. Now it should work, even though it's going to throw that bogus error at me again. Oh, now it doesn't. Yay! All right. So there we go. We've got our site and our site min, and then we can delete this guy. It automatically compiles as soon as I create that file, so we always get one of those. But this should have all of Bootstrap in it. So if we look, notice I've got all of Bootstrap. And what's really cool about this setup is I may actually even put another level to this, and I may have all, and then I may have in addition to Bootstrap, I might have a file called vendors, and all of the third-party vendor files I might configure in there. We may add that next. But what's nice is in all, I can just call on Bootstrap. And then since this Bootstrap is configured this way, this is really nice. Watch. I've got, let's go to site, CSS, properties. They don't have file lengths in here, huh? Or file sizes. Let's jump over to open in File Explorer. So I'm going to show you a little trick here. It's not a lot. I mean, people really nitpick at file sizes of CSS and stuff in JavaScript. Then they throw an image on their site that just blows any of the stuff out of the water. But there are some savings that you can have in here. It's 104 kilobytes. Let's see if I can get size is already here. Let's scoot these guys over. There we go. We can see it now. 141K. We can come in here and go, well, we're not going to use, I definitely don't want a carousel. I don't want spinners. I might have print. I'm not going to use the modal because I have some Telerik ones. I'm not going to use tooltips, popovers, toast notifications. I don't know what close is. I'll leave that one alone. Lists are fine. Media is fine. Progress bar is probably fine. Alerts. Jumbotron. Don't want Jumbotron. Badges are fine. Pagers. Leave that. Breadcrumbs. Cards. Navbars. Custom forms. Don't know if I need those, but we'll keep some of this stuff in. Transitions. Don't need that. Buttons. Forms. Tables. Grid. Code. Images. Types. Okay, so most of this stuff we'll leave, but we don't need these things. So when I save that, I come back to my folder, and now it's 128K. So we dropped 20K off of that. So Bootstrap in itself isn't really that big anymore, so you're not going to save a ton, but there's other CSS frameworks that we'll probably end up using. where we can do that as well. So that's the way I like to set up my initial Sass files there. And then another thing I like to do here is when we start building out components, people have asked about how to embed CSS and Sass and stuff into components in Blazor. What I like to do is just create a folder under here and say components, and then I can just import in here. We'll have an import. We don't have the file yet, but it'll be something like components all like that. And then we can just import all of our components, but in that directory of components, we'll have all of the components for our app. So that's something that we'll add. So let's do changes. And we'll say setup, Sass, compile, and added Bootstrap, Sass. Commit that. One thing I probably should have done before I committed that is just double check to make sure everything was working. But we have such a simple app right now. I believe it's going to work. Let's double check. We can always fix it and make a new commit. But we should still have our layout with our gutters, our fluid layout. It looks like we're fine. Again, it's very bare bones and simple. Something is broken, though. Let's see. It's looking for Bootstrap min. So we don't even need that declaration anymore. But if I go to inspect, let's see here. We should have. Let's close that window. Let's go into our app. Our div or fluid container is still getting those Bootstrap styles. So that error right there, midnight in Thailand, gotta go. Thanks to Freeze. Thanks for joining us all the way from Thailand. These shows are recorded and put on Bootstrap, on YouTube. It's food time. Mr. Magoo's bailing on me too. You guys can catch the show on YouTube. We'll probably wrap this up pretty soon. I'm just getting things squared away to start really actually building the app next week. When I actually I've got some vacation scheduled, so we'll probably pick this up in at a later time, probably a week from Friday. So I've got the webinars this week, so it'll probably be the 7th when we actually do the next show. But we're just getting the groundwork put together. And these will be up on YouTube, so you can catch up that way. But thanks for joining me today, guys. So we have everything that we need. We do have a little bit of a bug that we need to squash before we get too far along and it ends up coming to bite us somehow. In the shared, or sorry, not shared, it's in Pages now in Host. Host is kind of your root application element here. So it has the HTML head, all that stuff. And we have these Razor Pages tag helpers. So we have environment include. I liked the old style of this better where it was include development and include production, but now it's kind of more simplified, but reverse logic. So it's exclude development. Yeah, don't care for that naming convention, but it is what it is. So on development, we have Bootstrap min. We don't need this anymore because our Bootstrap code is now inside of our site style sheet. So we don't need that anymore. What we can do, we can take this out and we can say that site min is our development file, and then that also changes this here. We're not going to go to a CDN and look for Bootstrap in there. So actually what we'll do is we'll take the non-minified for development and the minified for production. And then we don't have those references anymore. We just don't need them. And we'll only really ever, for CSS, all we'll really ever need is the site min CSS. That's it. Because it's always going to get, everything's always going to get imported by Sass. So we may have, right now we're building out a light theme. What we might have is site.light.css and some way to toggle between light and dark. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Right now we're just getting the bare bones set up. So that'll get rid of that one error that we did see in the browser. If we go back, let's see if this refreshes properly. There's still one error. And yeah, it didn't refresh that code. So we might need to do a rebuild. And let's try refreshing. It's attempting to reconnect, it says. Let's try retry. That didn't work. So there we go. Yeah, errors are gone. So no more errors. We've corrected that. And in our head of the file, we only have site CSS now. So that's gotten us in a pretty good spot. Now we just need to log what we did. Removed site, or sorry, Bootstrap. Remove the Bootstrap references. We don't need those anymore. Cool. So, right. I need some more tooling. Wondering if I should cover this today or wait till next week. But what I want to do next is I want to add Kendo UI, or sorry, not Kendo UI, Telerik UI for Blazor. I might do that next week, and then we can start building out the kind of basic menu system of the app. So I want to have some more navigation elements. I want to have some more on the index page. What's the GitHub repo? That's something I didn't create yet. Let's go ahead and do that real quick. So I need to go out to GitHub. There's some helper tools in Visual Studio now to make this process a lot easier too, which is awesome. So I'm going to call this guy BlazePort. Let's go to my session eyes again and grab the description out of there. Just make things a little more consistent. So this is going to be a futuristic space travel app. There we go. That'll work. Boom. .NET with Blazor. There we go. That sounds good. I'm not going to worry about any of these settings because once I hit create repo, it will give me this. And I can copy this, this Git URI, and then I can come into Visual Studio. This is so nice. I'm glad they did this. You can sync, and then it's going to not find a repo. And it says backup and publish to Git service. You can say publish Git repo, and I can just paste that right in there and hit publish. So how's that? Like, how many of you guys knew that was there? Have you used that yet? That actually just takes care of like 4 command line steps that now I don't have to go out to my command line or try to remember. They're actually documented well, which is nice. They're all right here, but just having a one button click way to do that is so much nicer. It really is. Cool. Glad you guys, glad you learned a new trick today. Try to share as many little tips and tricks that productivity tips and things that I know about Visual Studio. I've been working with it for quite a while. Absolutely love Visual Studio and all the stuff it does. So now our repo is up. And what I'll do is I'll create a command for this that we can use with our chatbot. Let me try giving that a shot. Let me pull it off screen real quick. I don't know what is going to be on the display for this. So Streamlabs can help me with this. We'll create a chat command that can post that URL for us. So when people ask in future shows, we can just punch in that chatbot command, and that'll take care of that for us. So CloudBot commands. All right, now I can share this. There was possibly sensitive information at the beginning, so I like to take that off air. But now what we can do in our chat thing is we can come in and say add a command. And if we type in bang BlazePort, we will get that URL, and anyone can use it. So let's give that a try. There. Now, in the future, if somebody asks for the GitHub repo, we can easily share that with people that are on the chat room. So a little chatbot integration there. Let's see here. Debating whether I want to get started on this next portion or not, because we'll go ahead and do it because it kind of falls in line with what we've already done, and that's configuring the Sass stuff. I'm going to add the Telerik UI for Blazor. Once I do this, it's going to add a requirement for a subscription, or not a subscription, but a free trial for Telerik UI for Blazor that will last 30 days. So let's see, we need drop downs keep popping up in front of me. Demos, products, sorry. Products. This is something that I work on at work, and I absolutely love it. We have some really great tools in here. So I'm going to go to UI for Blazor. And I plan on using it in the BlazePort application because we're going to be doing some work with dates. And we have a calendar. And the calendar component will let us do all sorts of really cool stuff. So we can not only display dates, but we can select dates. Get into selection here. Something we'll be using right away is the ability to select dates. Oh, I thought we had a demo of that right here. Let's go to demos. We're still running our demos client side. We're waiting for a fix from the .NET team to push those on the server so we can have pre-rendering and all that good stuff. So date picker. We have date picker. That we may use date picker. We also may use a calendar. And the calendar even has the ability to do this. We can hold shift and we can select the date range. So that might be something that we're going to be using pretty early on in the project. So remember, we're going to build this kind of space Uber thing. So we're probably going to want to pick travel dates. We're probably going to use some charts and stuff out of this library as well to show some travel statistics and things like that. Maybe some pricing stuff in a little more data visualization type of a way. So we're definitely going to use this stuff out of the Telerik bits. So if we go to telerik.com, click on all products, and then on Blazor there will be a get a free trial button. We can hit try now. That gives you 30 days to work with Telerik UI for Blazor. and some of the other things that we're absolutely going to need, window for pop-ups, and drop-down list, because we're going to have some drop-down lists, and we're going to be picking things like destinations. We're going to have like Earth, the moon, Mars, for example, and what we want to do is have templates, and this drop-down list has templates, and we can put more visual items in the template rather than just words. So we can have like a picture of the moon and a description, maybe like the distance, things like that in the drop-down itself. So that can be really handy. So if you want to work on it after I add that, you're going to have to hit try now and sign up for a free trial. There's also some steps to get started under documents in support. Oh, it's under the demos here as well. Our installation, get started. There is a Telerik private NuGet feed that you'll need once we have this installed. So it just means you'll have to go to the command line and run these commands and log into your account. So let's go ahead and add that. I'm going to say manage NuGet packages. And again, you'll need to add this NuGet source. So I have a private NuGet feed called telerik.com. And I have the Telerik UI for Blazor here. And I'm going to use the trial version. So if you don't have a paid version, then you'll be able to easily grab this on GitHub and sign up for a free trial and still be able to use it. And if you have a paid version, all you have to do is remove the word trial from your project. What is this thing called? Your CS proj file. So if you do have a paid copy, you just remove this from here and save it. And it will run just like the trial did. All right, so we've added that NuGet package. We also need getting started, server-side Blazor. This will walk us through the steps. And we need the, we're going to need a style sheet. And notice this goes out to onPackage, and it calls out all.css. Instead of doing this, I'm going to use an alternative method, and I just copied that URL from the CDN, and instead of using that CDN directly, I am going to come into my libman.json. Actually, I won't edit it directly. I'm going to do this again. I'm going to do right-click on here, come down to add, and then client-side library. Just like I did before, I'm going to select on package, and then I'm going to pop in that URL and kind of modify it a little bit. Whoa. Okay, this is a bug, and it's a good thing I just caught this. I hit delete, and for some reason the focus shifted from the text box to my project right here, and it tried to delete it. So I'm going to hit cancel on that. So I don't want to delete this. I don't know why it's putting focus there. I definitely had focus here. Let me try doing backspace instead of delete, just so I don't run into that again and accidentally delete something important. And I don't know if that's going to do it. There, that worked. All right. So I can do at progress. This is still, the theme is shared with our Kendo UI library. And it's going to use the default theme. I don't want the default theme, actually. I want the material, or no, the Bootstrap theme, sorry. So we have a Bootstrap theme for Blazor, Telerik UI for Blazor. And I'm going to choose that. And this is going to be interesting. I'm actually going to go back and end up deleting out the Bootstrap stuff, believe it or not. So I forgot about this. So we're going to have to undo some of that work we did earlier, because one thing that we do is we nicely wrap up when we call out the Kendo Bootstrap theme is we pull in Bootstrap as well. So we actually want to grab modules and CSS or Sass here, just like we did with the Bootstrap stuff. And then the output directory is going to be Sass / vendors and progress. We'll install that guy, and now we should have, and this has something to do with the login scenario. Sometimes this can take a little bit. It says restore operation started. So this is going out to the, actually there's no login with that one. I'm mistaken. For some reason, this one takes a little bit longer to go out to unpackage and grab this set of files. Don't know why it does, but it takes a little bit longer to resolve than just the Bootstrap package. But ooh, you can see it's grabbing all that CSS there. Let's see if we can do this. It should just give us a listing of files. Yeah, so it's basically going out and making a call to this service. Sometimes it takes a little bit for this package. It's quite a bit of files, I guess. A little bit more than just the Bootstrap stuff was. But again, we're not grabbing any JavaScript or any of that stuff. So it should show up in here, and then we'll be able to actually go in and remove the Bootstrap piece. So we don't have two copies of it. So let that run for a moment. While that is running, we're actually going to be able to we'll be changing this piece to it will end up being progress / modules, I believe, and then that will work just fine. And under here, we'll just remove this from our libman.json file, and then make that go away. So let's see if it's still running. This thing, I think it took about 2 minutes last time I did this. Not exactly sure why it does that, and I also have a habit of clicking on things I don't mean to. So I didn't mean to open Visual Studio Code. Let's go ahead and get rid of that guy. So while it does that, we do need some JavaScript files. Or a JavaScript file. There is a little bit of JavaScript that runs in the Telerik UI for Blazor, and that comes along for some of the charting utilities. So there's no legacy stuff inside of Telerik UI for Blazor. It's all brand new code, but there are some limits to, I'm opening the wrong file here. There are some limits to Blazor and WebAssembly. And we patch those things up using a little bit of JavaScript. So we need to go into our host file. And we can just put this at the bottom here. We have our script, Kendo CDN, Blazor 1.0, 1.1, and then Telerik Blazor min.js. So there's a little script that, a little bit of scripting that takes place there. That gets installed, and then we need to come down to startup. And we need to register the service. So it's going to be services. Dot add Telerik Blazor. And that lights up nice and easy for us. So there's our Telerik service, and we're still running our restore operation. I thought it would let me see it if I clicked on it. Didn't do anything. We can see package manager. Now we should be able to see this running. It's not package manager. It is library manager. Yeah. So it is still restoring the Telerik or the progress Kendo theme. I need to see if there's anything we can do to fix this. I think it's on package that's taking the time to do this. I'll make sure that this isn't a progress thing that we need to check into. But I don't believe it is. It seems to be something to do with that specific package, though, which is kind of odd. So we added the Telerik service. Then we can add components to the view. So we can go ahead, we can start writing these out. We can't actually see them until that that Sass file completes its task. But we can come in here and we can do a using Telerik come on. IntelliSense has given up on me for some reason. There we go. Telerik dot Blazor components. IntelliSense is giving me a rough time. It's making me hit Control J every time for some reason. So I think Visual Studio, maybe it's that task running in the background, is giving it a little bit of a headache. But we can say calendar. And now we have our calendar component, and we can come in here and remove this hello world, and we can say Telerik dot, oh, we don't need the dot calendar. And we have a calendar component now. And this is really easy. We can either give it a data binding, we could set some dates. We can even disable dates, which is really handy. We can get the selected date. We can set up different views, which gives you the ability to control like whether you want people to only be able to select like a month and things like that. This, I think, is all we need. It will definitely give us an error if it needs something else. This is still trying to load that resource, that restore of those Sass files. It looks like they might actually be coming in now because my wait icon is lit up here. Something's happening over here. It's embarrassingly slow. I don't know why it's doing that. Yeah, we have files now, which is good. All right, so we have modules at progress. We have Bootstrap, Sass. So you can see we've got a duplicate of this Bootstrap folder. So we don't need that anymore. It's managed by progress within here. So these themes are built off of each other, which is really handy, and you'll see why in just a few minutes. So I can go into themes and all, and I can remove my reference for Bootstrap in here. Or actually I need to update it. So instead of vendors Bootstrap, it is vendors slash no, it's still Bootstrap. Vendor, no, that's not the right. From what vendors progress. IntelliSense, you're helping me too much. I'm going to do it this way again so it doesn't accidentally delete something I need. Dot 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 again. Vendors progress modules, and then that is all I need. So I'm going to update. I'm going to take that piece of code or string, and I'm going to select this and paste that in. And now, oops, I got too many slashes in here. Oh, and I fat fingered this. Sorry, guys. You have to watch these failures here. Oh, hang on. Let me undo. Let me undo. I see a lot of mistakes. I'm trying to do this fast, and it's the commented pieces that are messing me up. That's what that is. So I've got to watch for the commented bits. So I need to remove the slash. So I don't need that slash, and I should be able to take that and replace it with that. And why is it taking import with it? Is that IntelliSense doing this? Yep. So IntelliSense is wanting to move this to this line for some reason. It's really weird. It's giving me too much help. It's giving me too much help, guys. So faster way to do this will be, since they're all not in a nice line, we'll take this and do an add or a replace, and replace all, and boom. So that should do it. Let me save that. And nope, it didn't like that. File not found or unreadable. The path is bad. I've got progress in this one twice. So that was the only one that looks like it did that. Now I should be able to save again. And nope, it still doesn't like it. Vendor's progress Bootstrap does not like. So what about this path is wrong? So it is ... which is our Sass, progress. Okay, vendors. Sorry, vendors, progress, modules. I'm missing modules. I'm missing modules, and we have a new follower. Thank you, J Stratman 33. Thank you for following the show. Just trying to configure some Sass stuff, and once we do, it will be smooth running, I promise. It was getting a little clunky here just now. So this was going to be vendors, progress, and then modules. And that should do it. If it doesn't, I may need to rethink my line of work. This first one just keeps getting butchered for some reason. The rest of them look okay. And I don't see an error this time, which is good. And I think our Sass built. So I'm going to double check by coming into my wroot, and I'm going to delete this site CSS file, and let's remove that guy. And then we will rerun the compiler. So I can come into themes and rerun all. To do that, we web compiler, recompile. And then our site file reappears. So that means we have a good CSS compilation. And I'm going to keep this Bootstrap file, but what I do need to do is get rid of this vendor file. And that is going to come from libman.json. And I know this file seems really big, because it is. And it's got a lot of stuff in it, and it's really annoying. But it is a necessary evil. I'd rather deal with this big file than deal with node modules. So thanks to Visual Studio, I'm able to collapse those file definitions down, and now it makes something that is readable, and I no longer need the Bootstrap library. So I'm going to remove that, and now I should only have this one declaration that is the Kendo theme that uses Bootstrap internally, and now I've got 2 for the price of 1, and I can remove this, and it's still removing. And then I want to save this libman.json, because if it picks that libman.json up again before I delete that out, it will repopulate. We don't want to do that. All right, so now I have just vendors progress. My Bootstrap comes from progress's modules folder. So that's all set. And then I've got that here. It just like I have this Bootstrap selection here. And I'm commenting out things that I don't need. What is super handy is I can come into the progress thing, and I can remove parts of the Sass that I may not be using in here as well. I have the same type of features that I can use here. So let's see, that is actually the wrong folder. I want to be in the progress, Kendo default theme, Sass. And now I've got an all, where is it at? Should be labeled, oh, they're all.css. So I'm going to copy all of this. And I'm going to copy, actually, I'm going to copy, let's see. I want to copy variables, the file, and I'm going to put that here. And I'm going to rename this to Telerik variables. So it's going to be all the variables for the Telerik UI stuff. And again, I like to copy these out and put them in their own file up in the root here, because if I reinstall, all CSS exists already. So I want to do a new file, add a new item. I want a Sass file, and I want this one to say Telerik. Just the word Telerik is probably fine. So this will take in all the Telerik stuff. And what's nice about putting these in the root is if I ever reinstall the Telerik UI stuff, it will not overwrite my settings and my choices that I've made in this file. So I can come in here and say, some of these things actually aren't supported yet in the Telerik UI for Blazor anyhow. You can imagine that these things will get lit up as the product gets built out. But you know, Blazor is really new, so some things aren't supported yet, like barcodes. So what we can do is eliminate these pieces of code. I actually like to put these comments in one at a time here instead. But what we can do is take off this import statement. We can say, well, barcodes aren't supported. We can take those out. The Gantt chart, the scheduler is not built yet. And there's some other things that don't belong in here that we're not going to use. So we can take these things out. And we have dialogues. We have notifications. We don't have splitters. Leave tooltip in window because those things are in there. So there's things that I may take out of here that aren't in this version. So we may support these things soon, so I'm not going to remove everything, but we don't have a chat window yet, and we don't have a PDF viewer. Another thing that we could do with these CSS styles that I'm taking out is if we wanted to add support for them and they're not supported in Telerik UI for Blazor, we could always wrap them in a JavaScript shell and use the MVC or the Kendo UI JavaScript version of it. So that is a possibility. But anyhow, that's what I'm going to do with this telerik.css Sass file is I'm going to configure what components I want to use and only take the CSS from those components and put those in my project. So now I've got custom Sass builds. And I've got a Telerik variables, which is, these are going to need proper namespacing for. So let's do this. We're actually going to see this blow up, I believe, just to make sure that Sass doesn't know where to find it. We need to import and I'm going to put this at the top. And in the very top, I'm going to put Telerik variables. And there's a reason I'm putting this at the top. Okay. And I believe when I hit save, I'm going to get an error, which is fine. Expected that. I'm putting this at the top because the variables I set here are set up in a special way, and this is a Sass feature. So Sass has something called, it's kind of like the opposite of, if this was CSS, so let's do some CSS. Sass has this really cool feature. If I had a color, it's kind of the opposite of saying important. So think of that, the opposite of important. So important always gets precedent over any other setting. No matter what, it's going to override this color and set it to black, right? So what would the opposite of important be? I'm trying to remember what this is called. Let's look at variables and see default. So default you can kind of think of as the opposite of important. So if I anywhere in my code set a new value for that variable, it will get overridden. So what happens is, since this is at the top of my file, if I put any special colors in here, they will then cascade into the Bootstrap and the progress Telerik UI stuff. And those things will then override the colors for any components that follow. So that gives me complete theming all in one set of variables, which is really nice. And I need to import that. Notice I also don't need any underscores or .sass. Those can go away too. And then this will error because I don't have the paths set up yet. So these paths don't actually exist here. They are in ... Because remember I copied this file from another directory. IntelliSense, please stop. Please stop being too helpful. So this one is going to be in vendors. I gotta type it because it keeps deleting the string that follows. It's kind of obnoxious. If I hit enter, see it deletes my string out. I really wish it wouldn't do that. It's gonna keep, yeah. It's gonna keep doing that. And even, I didn't even hit enter that time. I just tried to finish the slash and it did it. CSS slash, stop it, Visual Studio, stop. CSS, I think that was it. That SCSS. That should do that. That should get the map, the directory lined up. These aren't relative anymore. And then I can save that. And I still have a bug in here somewhere. Mixins, config, variables, still not, oh, it's one of the dots got removed. So it didn't have, oh, come on. What have I done wrong? What have I done wrong? I wish there was a way I could set, and there may be, oh, this is broke too. Should be the same path like that. Let's do this. Let's try to do this quickly. So wherever I have an import, I want to add that to it. So import then becomes, oops. So wherever there's an import, I am going to prepend this. Let's see if this works. There we go. Except for this top one, I did it twice. So now I've got all my paths lined up, and let's see if I get that same error. I do. It's still saying there's one in themes that is bad. Yeah, oh, I see it now. I see it. It's missing slash in here. Growing pains. Chris taking off. Thanks for joining the show again today. Thanks for watching me fail through some of these CSS settings. I don't know why this one's not working now. So I've got ..vendors. It's saying it can't find color maps. So let me traverse this real quick and see if I've got it right. So it should be, so ... gets a Sass, then it's vendors, progress. Ooh, I see. No, that's not it. Progress, CSS, and then CSS, and then mixins. Oh, maybe I am in the wrong folder. It wasn't in there. It's in default. Modules, progress, then mixins. There it is. I had the total wrong directory. So it's progress again, modules, progress. All right. So I did that really badly. It's going to be similar to this path here. I have to look back and see if I'm missing something because I feel like I'm overthinking this. It's going to be progress modules, then at progress, slash kendo. This is a long path. Holy cow. Aims default. Oops, it's a dash, not a slash. These are terribly long. Once this all gets set up, it's very easy, and you don't have to ever really touch it again. So it's worth the effort. It's just why. All right. So let's try that. Incredibly long path there. Save. Yeah, it doesn't like that either. All right. So let's see. We got some questions here. I think Lewis was trying to help. Getting me bedtime in England. Sorry about that. It's yeah, we're getting ready to wrap up the show here. Will this run in Visual Studio 2017 or only VS 2019? Lewis is right. It's not only 2019, but you have to be on Visual Studio 2019 preview. So I will end the show the same way I started it. What I'm going to do is I will figure out what's going on with these paths, and I'll revisit this on the next show. I'm not even going to commit this to GitHub yet. I feel like I've got something wrong with the way this is set up, and hiccups while I'm trying to do this too. I've got something going on with my pathing that I know there's a simpler way to do this, because I've done it recently and I don't remember having this much trouble. So I'll fix this on the next show, then we'll upload that to GitHub. While we wind down the show here, let me end the same way it started. If you want to use Blazor, go to the Visual Studio Marketplace. I'll pop the link here in the chat room, and Todd Forsberg, go to this link and follow the prerequisites. So you're going to need ASP.NET Core 3.0 Preview 5 SDK. You're going to click on this. When this loads, you're probably going to want this x64 installer. Most people are on 64-bit these days, so install the x64 installer there. Next, you'll need Visual Studio Preview. You have to have Preview. If you don't have Preview, then it will not work. So make sure you get on the Preview bandwagon. It installs side by side. So if you look at my machine, I have something called the Visual Studio Installer. This gets installed when you hit the download button, and you will see a window like this. May not be exactly like this, but it'll be similar. If it ever comes up, I will show it to you. Okay, there it goes. So you'll get this window here. This nice white box with nothing in it. No. It will show you your Visual Studio instances that you have installed. Holy cow, this is the slowest thing ever. You also need this Blazor extension, which is this actual page here. So click download and install that guy. And then optionally, but recommended, install this on the command line, .NET new-i, copy paste that guy into your console. That will give you all the tools you need to develop the Blazor apps. And then you'll have a window like this. And it should say Visual Studio Enterprise 2019 if you have that guy installed. You may have 2017. Apparently you do. But you should have this, and this is what you absolutely have to have: Visual Studio Enterprise 2019 Preview. And then once you launch that guy, you should be able to do File New Project, provided you have done all of these steps. So hopefully that helps. So thanks for joining me on the show today. We will fix the Telerik bits. I'm doing a little more advanced setup, so this isn't something that is going to be in the documentation, not yet anyway, and it's a little more advanced, and I seem to be fumbling something, so I'll figure that out over the week, and next week we will pick it up from there and show you the fixed version of it, and we should be able to start building the application. So thanks for joining me this week, everybody. Community preview is fine, Todd. So there's several options there. They all basically do the same thing. Visual Studio preview. So I'll break this down real quick before we go. Community is free and fully featured, so you're not going to miss anything. The only thing you can't do with it is build production applications. There's nothing stopping you from doing it, but your end user license agreement states that you legally cannot create like enterprise applications with it. If you want to do that, you need professional. And then if you have a huge team, then you get enterprise. But for building Blazor demo applications, community will give you all the features that you need to do that. Just if you plan on building something for work, make sure you check the license agreement before you go pushing things into production at work. You have Visual Studio 2019 Pro on order, so you're just using community now. Yeah, if you have Pro on order, I believe you should be able to use professional preview as well. They should be the same license. And I don't know how your licensing thing works, but mine, I have like an MSDN subscription, and it shows all the stuff in there. What'll happen is you will actually get a login screen. I'm trying to remember where it shows up. It asks me for it every once in a while. I don't know if it's under register. It shows up. I'm going to go to the start window here. It'll pop up either here or account settings. There we go. So boom, this is where you'll see it. If you're not licensed for, I think preview's fine. You should be perfectly fine, but it'll show up here that you're not allowed to use a certain version of it, and it'll actually force close you. So it'll come up in where it has like unlock with a product key. You should be able to use that key that you said you have on order when it comes. You should be able to put that key in there, and that will unlock the preview edition at the pro level. And then for mine, I just sign in with my account and it works. So that's where you should look, and it'll prompt you with that box. That box will come up, and it will be in your face. So if you need to enter your key, that's where it'll be. All right. So we'll close this guy out. If you guys have any other questions, hit me up just the next few seconds here. So I'm going to end out the show. We'll pick it up next week. Again, I'll be in Michigan. It's not too late if any of you guys are from Michigan to go to Beer City Code. I think ticket sales end this week. Maybe in those final days here, but Beer City Code looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. I have a workshop there on the 31st, so I will see folks on Friday. I'll be sending out an email with prerequisites in just a few minutes for those people, but the buy now button's still activated. I don't know if you guys are in that area that you can join me, but tickets are on sale for the next few days. I think Wednesday is the last day to get the tickets. So any last minute people that want to join should be available. And then, of course, join me at the Telerik. When will I be in Chicago? I don't have anything scheduled for Chicago, unfortunately. Um, I'll have to look. Do you know of any events that are in Chicago? If you know any events that are in Chicago, then I could submit for them. But I'm not familiar with any events up there in the next few months. Um, trying to think what might be going on up there. I haven't done any events up there ever. So if you have any that you can think of, either reach out to me on Twitter or in the chat room here, or you can also get in touch. Probably Twitter would be the best place. But if you see anything in Chicago, ping me on Twitter. Let me know, and I'll see if I can submit for it, depending on how my when it is scheduled during the year. But yeah, Beer City Code is my next event, and then I'll be in Louisville after that in August. So Codepalooza is coming in August, and that's what we're going to build a project for, is that upcoming event. So thank you guys. Have a good holiday if you're still celebrating here in the U.S., and we will see you next time. See, it will be not this Friday, but the 7th should be the next show. That'll be, yep, 7th of June will be the next show. So thanks for joining me today, and goodbye.